Here are the top stories for today, April 23, 2020. President Duterte orders all government agencies to set new rules to ease the public's burden amid the COVID-19 pandemic. A survey showed that 80% of Filipinos are satisfied with the government's response to the COVID-19 crisis. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao reports 0 cases of COVID-19. And Muslim authorities announce the start of the fasting month of Ramadan on April 24. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered all government offices to new rules on their different policies to ease the social and economic burden of the public amid the COVID-19 pandemic. On April 21st, Duterte signed Administrative Order Number 30, which mandates the adjustment to statutory deadlines and timelines for the filing of any public documents, payment of taxes and other fees, grant of benefits, and scheduled proceedings. Under AO 30, all government offices are directed to issue guidelines on the interruption of reglementary periods for the commencement of actions and claims, the filing of pleadings, appearances, motions, notices, and all other papers, and the rendition of judgments, resolutions, and orders amid the enhanced community quarantine. They are also ordered to set rules on the rescheduling of proceedings after the lifting of ECQ, as well as on the acceptable justifications for the failure of litigants or their counsel to appear at legal proceedings. Duterte's latest directive is applicable to areas where ECQ was declared. Heads of agencies are told to ensure that their rules or guidelines are consistent with the directives of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases and the Office of the President. President Duterte will carefully study the proposed class resumption in December to effectively contain the spread of COVID-19. The class suspension until December this year is among the recommendations pitched by Dr. Mahara Lagmay to President Duterte on Monday. Lagmay said the proposal was made after it was noticed that individuals aged 19 and below are most likely to have contact with the elderly and infect them. But for Education Secretary Leonor Briones, the opening of classes for the next school year may be moved to August, and that the Department of Education is considering holding Saturday classes to achieve its target to end the 2020-2021 academic year in March. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the warning of UP experts would be thoroughly assessed. Meanwhile, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, on Wednesday said the safety of students should be the primary consideration regarding plans on the opening of classes for the next school year. Bishop Rex Andrew Alarcon of the CBCP Episcopal Commission on Youth said the adjustment is obviously due to the pandemic, which is a threat to lives, and safety first is paramount. He said he is trusting our officials that they may be guided by this principle and by the scientific data as we continue to implore the help of the Almighty. The Department of Justice on Wednesday announced new rules expediting the processing of applications for parole and executive clemency. Secretary Menardo Guevara approved the resolution, which simplifies the requirements and procedure for the processing of applications by dispensing most of the documentary requirements for applications for parole and executive clemency. Justice Secretary and spokesperson Mark Perete said the general requirements for eligibility for parole remains, and those who are not eligible may apply for clemency if they meet the criteria. Part of the resolution also allows the applications by those who are 65 years of age and above. The new rules still require court certifications of no pending case and no pending appeal, and a check on the records of the person deprived of liberty at the National Bureau of Investigation. It also removed the requirement for parolees and pardonees to report to parole and probation officers while the state of public health emergency remains in effect. LANDBANK of the Philippines supports the International ID program, saying it will greatly ease the distribution of cash aid to the beneficiaries. LANDBANK Vice President and Chief Executive Officer Cecilia Borromeo on Wednesday said she supports the push on the national ID by newly appointed Acting NEDA Chief Carl Kendrick Chua. Citing the experience of LANDBANK, she said they were able to disburse 16.3 billion pesos worth of cash grants to the 3.7 million beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program in just 3 days because the beneficiaries already have cash cards even before the COVID-19 pandemic. Borromeo said the same situation was observed in the distribution of the financial support to the beneficiaries of COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program or CAMP. She said they were able to disburse the cash grants because the workers have bank accounts. Meanwhile, Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto said he also personally supports the national ID implementation despite fear of privacy issues. He said there will be no problem in the privacy as long as the national ID is secured and properly encrypted. Soto said the national ID system is beneficial in emergency response and crisis management, such as the coronavirus disease, as contact tracing will be much easier and will also address the problem of identifying the recipients of the government assistance. The Philippine National Police has ordered a probe on the shooting incident which led to the death of a former Philippine Army troop near a quarantine checkpoint in Quezon City. PNP spokesperson Brigadier General Bernard Banak said the QCPD's Criminal Investigation and Detection Unit was directed to determine the circumstances on the shooting that resulted in the death of a 34-year-old Winston Ragos, who allegedly tried to draw a gun on Master Sergeant Daniel Florendo Tuesday afternoon. Banak said if the viral video clips of the incident were the sole basis for investigation, it showed that the victim had also repeatedly defied verbal commands given by authorities to yield and made provocative and threatening moves, as well as the use of firearms and application of deadly force. He said Florendo was the only person in the best position to make such judgment call. QCPD Director Brigadier General Ronnie Montejo said Florendo, who is assigned at the Fairview Police Station, will face criminal and administrative investigation as he voluntarily surrendered himself and his service firearm used in the shooting incident. Meanwhile, the Philippine Army said it will also probe on the incident in coordination with the police. Army spokesperson Colonel Ramon Zagala said the investigation order came from Army Commander Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay. Zagala said the probe will be conducted by the Army Judge Advocate in coordination with PNP so that justice will be given to the victim. He added that the Philippine Army is saddened with Ragos' death and sincerely condoles with his family. The Department of Transportation is eyeing a partial lifting of the public transport ban for personnel of essential services. And the Department of Interior and Local Government has issued show-cause orders against 29 barangay chairpersons in Metro Manila for failure to properly enforce the enhanced community quarantine. More on these from Chris Mundo.
After more than a month under an enhanced community quarantine in Luzon, DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade said the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases is considering the limited operation of public utility buses or PUBs and trains in certain areas. He said aside from certain PUBs, the IATF-EID is also eyeing the resumption on limited operation of LRT-1 and 2, MRT-3, and the Philippine National Railways. He added that basic social distancing principles will have to be enforced not only inside public utility vehicles, but also while passengers are waiting in line. Tugade said the possibility is being studied and if justified, the DOTR will submit a recommendation to the IATF-EID. Meanwhile, the construction of 13 rail projects in the country has resumed this week after the approval of the IATF-EID. The resumption of works includes the fast-tracking of projects and comprise of rail installation and relocation of utilities. In other news, the Department of Interior and Local Government on Wednesday said it has issued show-cause orders against 29 barangay chairpersons in Metro Manila for failure to properly enforce the enhanced community quarantine in their communities. These are the barangays located in Manila, Quezon City, Malabon, and Muntinlupa. DILG Secretary Eduardo Años said the move comes after the reports received by the department from concerned citizens on the non-observance of physical distancing and continuing instances of mass gatherings in their barangays. In other news, the Department of Social Welfare and Development on Wednesday appealed to the public not to harass the government personnel who identify and verify beneficiaries of the Social Amelioration Program. DSWD Undersecretary Rene Glenn Paje made this call after receiving reports that the government frontliners, particularly DSWD personnel, have been receiving threats while disturbing the government cash assistance to the poor families affected by the ECQ. Paje said the DSWD has already coordinated with Armed Forces of the Philippines and Philippine National Police to provide security to the field workers. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Still to come, a survey shows 80% of Filipinos are satisfied with the administration's response to the COVID-19 crisis. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao reports 0 cases of COVID-19. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Kakagaling ko lang ng grocery. Siyempre, hindi ko hahayaan na pumasok ang COVID-19 sa bahay at mapahamak ang pamilya ko. Kaya iiwan ko ang sapatos ko sa labas. At ngayon, maghuhugas ako ng kamay ng 20 seconds. O ayan, wala na ang virus. Tandaan, buhay ng pamilya natin na nakasalalay. Let's heal as one.
Alam niyo ba na pumapasok ang COVID-19 sa ating katawan sa pamamagitan ng mata, ilong at bibig? Kaya lagi kaming conscious dito sa bahay kapag umuubo kami. Lagi kami naghuhugas ng kamay in 20 seconds. Pag lumalabas kami, lagi namin suot ang mask. Lagi lang natin tatandaan mga mamshi. Buhay ng pamilya natin ang nakasalalay dito. Let's heal as one.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. A survey result released by a global polling firm show that majority of Filipinos have expressed satisfaction with the Duterte administration's response to the COVID-19. According to a survey firm Gallup International Association, around 80% of Filipinos believe the government is handling the COVID-19 crisis well. Based on its April 6 to 8 poll, it shows that only 18% are dissatisfied with the government's COVID-19 response, while 2% were ambivalent on the matter. The survey also found that 86% expressed willingness to sacrifice some of their human rights if it helps prevent the spread of the virus. Only 12% said otherwise, while the remaining 2% could not make a decision. This developed as 88% admitted that they are afraid that either he or someone in his family may actually catch the novel coronavirus. President Rodrigo Duterte is seriously taking into consideration the World Health Organization's warning that COVID-19 will wreak havoc further unless stronger action is taken to address the health crisis. In a press statement, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Duterte is looking for best ways to address the pandemic in the country. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus earlier said the worst of the coronavirus has yet to come. Tedros appealed to countries with COVID-19 infections to work together to prevent the worst of the pandemic. Roque said Duterte had already consulted medical experts on how to improve the country's fight against COVID-19. Duterte also had a meeting with members of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases and even sought the advice of former health secretaries. Duterte has placed the whole island of Luzon under ECQ until April 30 to stop the further transmission of COVID-19. Other areas in Visayas and Mindanao that have confirmed COVID-19 cases have also been placed under ECQ. In our business news, micro and small entrepreneurs in Central Visayas affected by the enhanced community quarantine can now borrow funds from the government to help their distressed businesses. DTI Central Visayas is opening a 1 billion peso enterprise rehabilitation financing for micro, small, and medium enterprises affected by the crisis brought about by COVID-19. The ERF facility will be implemented under the department's Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-Asenso program, she said. Regional Director Asteria Caberte said the borrowed funds are expected to be used to update loan amortizations or other fixed asset loans, replace inventory for damaged perishable stocks, and as working capital replacement to restart the business. Caberte is encouraging MSME business owners to contact any of the DTI Central Visayas provincial offices to signify their interest and get an endorsement from the corporation. The island provinces of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao have so far registered 0 COVID-19 positive cases according to the Regional Health Ministry. Dr. Safrula Dipatuan of the Ministry of Health said, while Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi have a total of 127 suspected cases, none tested positive for COVID-19. Recently, the 2 suspected deaths in Sulu tested negative according to the Sulu Integrated Provincial Health Office. In Lanao del Sur, only Kapatagan, Balabagan, Malabang, Picon, Sagurian, Piagapo, and Marawi City are the areas where suspected cases of COVID-19 are still present, while in Maguindanao, not even 10% of its total number of municipalities are affected. Despite these developments in the said BARMM areas, the minister stressed there is still no reason to be complacent. Dipatuan emphasized that those who went to events with known COVID-19 cases, such as the Tabligh gathering in Malaysia and Cockfight Derby in Davao City, should not be afraid to seek help from authorities. Authorities have intensified operations against violators of quarantine rules in the CARAGA region. Meanwhile, wearing face masks to prevent COVID-19 will become mandatory in General Santos City. Rom Dulfo with the story.
The Police Regional Office in CARAGA has recorded a total of 3,408 violators of the enhanced community quarantine guidelines being implemented in the region. The recorded violations from March 17 to April 20 include disobedience to ECQ rules, violation of curfew hours, hoarding, and profiteering. Most of the individuals taken into custody violated curfew hours, totaling 2,028 violators, while those who disobeyed persons in authority numbered 1,154 violators. Meanwhile, at least 14 persons, including 4 minors, were rounded up by policemen on Tuesday night for violating the enhanced community quarantine rules on curfew hours and liquor ban. 5 were arrested in Pulangi town for violating the curfew. In Ligao City, police operatives caught 7 persons, including 2 minors, having a drinking binge at around 6:30 p.m. in Barangay Layon. In General Santos City, residents and visitors who fail to use protective face masks when going out in public places will now face hefty penalties, including potential jail time. This after the City Council approved an ordinance that requires the mandatory use of face masks by all persons in the city as a precautionary measure against COVID-19. City Councilor Franklin Gacal Jr. also reminded local business establishments of their duty to provide face masks for their employees for free. First-time offenders would be meted with at least 9 days of community service. For the second and third offense, violators will face a fine of 3,000 pesos and 1 month imprisonment. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Up next, the Philippines files 2 diplomatic protests against China over the violation of its sovereignty in the South China Sea. And Muslim authorities announced the start of the fasting month of Ramadan on April 24. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Mga mommies, pagdating sa COVID-19, dapat hindi tayo kampante. Bagamat hindi nakikita ang sakit na ito ay nakamamatay. At hanggang ngayon wala pa rin lunas. Kaya protektahan natin ang ating pamilya. Laging maghugas ng kamay, huwag hahawakan ng mukha, at manatili sa bahay para makaiwas sa sakit na ito. Tandaan, buhay ng pamilya natin ang nakasalalay dito. Let's hear this one.
Hi Caps! Kamusta?
Well, ito dahil sa COVID-19, medyo stress.
Okay lang yan, Caps. Napagdaanan ko din yan.
Ano kaya pwede natin gawin, no?
Kung nararamdaman mo na gulong-gulo ka na sa mga naririnig mo, sa mga nababasa mo, mag-pause ka muna, saka ka huminga ng malalim.
Buti na lang tumawag ka. Iba talaga pag may nangangamusta.
A strong body starts with a strong mind.
Tama. Let's heal as one.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday filed 2 diplomatic protests against China over its latest moves in the South China Sea that violated both Philippine sovereignty and international law. In a post on Twitter, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. said the DFA protested the pointing of a radar gun at a Philippine Navy ship in Philippine waters and the declaring of parts of Philippine territory as part of Hainan Province. China recently announced that a Chinese district will be established to govern Spratlys and that a district government will be stationed on Fiery Cross Reef. The Spratlys, where Fiery Cross Reef or Cagitingan Reef is located, is claimed by the Philippines, China, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Vietnam. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said he has requested the Philippine Navy to give him full briefing on the circumstances surrounding the Chinese radar gun incident. Lorenzana said he will wait for the reports from experts to see if there is a possibility that the Chinese probably used a fire control radar against the anti-submarine corvette BRP Conrado Yap. A fire-controlled radar is designed to provide targeting information to a fire control system to direct weapons that will hit a target. In our 4 news, the World Health Organization on Tuesday said claims that the novel coronavirus was transmitted to people from an animal and originated in a laboratory in China are inaccurate. WHO spokesperson Fadela Chaib refuted in a United Nations video news conference in Geneva the allegations that the virus spread from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Those claims were given by U.S. President Donald Trump, who said that Washington wanted to find out whether the virus originated from a laboratory in Wuhan. Chaib welcomed all countries to help find the origin of the virus and said it was only to be expected that a lot of spurious theories circulate when there is a new virus. The WHO is working with scientists and researchers who are scrambling to find a vaccine for the virus, which has infected more than 2.5 million worldwide and killed over 171,000. The highest Islamic religious authority in the country has announced the beginning of the fasting month of Ramadhan on Friday, April 24. Abu Huraira Udasan, Grand Mufti in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao and head of Darul Ifta, made the announcement on Wednesday. This as members of the Darul Ifta have failed to see the crescent moon, which marks the start of the fasting month. Udasan, meanwhile, admitted that Muslims are facing a huge challenge due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as lockdown measures have severely restricted the movement of people. Udasan said the Darul Ifta has cancelled all Islamic religious gatherings, including the congregational Tarawih prayers in mosques due to the COVID-19 onslaught. As the government continues to aid those affected by COVID-19 and the enhanced community quarantine, the Department of Health encourages breastfeeding to keep babies healthy amid the pandemic. Rechi Paculba has the story.
The Department of Health Center for Health Development in Northern Mindanao is boosting their campaign for the consumption of breast milk for infants in accordance with Executive Order No. 51 or the Philippine Milk Code. DOH-10 Regional Director Dr. Adriano Subaan said mothers should know that breastfeeding is the best way to boost their baby's immune system in this time of pandemic.
Ang atong mga anak from 0 to 6 months mag-exclusive siya og breastfeeding kay sa panahon karon nga pandemic kinahanglan mahimsog ang baby, which is ang breast milk lang ang makahatag og kompleto nga pagkaon alang kay baby para mo boost ang iyang immune system.
Caridad also said they're trying to prevent a false demand for formula milk and how it is economically prudent for families to choose a more natural and healthier option that would yield an array of benefits.
Ang breast milk maora siya ang pinaka-kompleto nga pagkaon alang kay baby from 0 to 6 months, wherein the baby needs a complete food nga sa breast milk lang niya makuha. Og usa pa, ang breast milk can promote bonding, strong bonding sa mama o sa bata.
EO 51, also known as the Philippine Milk Code of 1986, aims for the provision of adequate and safe consumption of breast milk for infants and the indemnity of transparency for the nutritional information of breast milk substitutes. For the PNA Newsroom, Rechi Paculba with Vincent Bautista, Philippine Information Agency, Cagayan de Oro.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. President Duterte orders all government agencies to set new rules to ease the public's burden amid the COVID-19 pandemic. A survey showed that 80% of Filipinos are satisfied with the government's response to the COVID-19 crisis. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao reports 0 cases of COVID-19. And Muslim authorities announced the start of the fasting month of Ramadan on April 24. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, check our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day. Stay at home.